So, have you ever looked at a world map and felt like you were watching a giant, high stakes game of chess? Well, today we're diving into one analyst's view of exactly that. We're going to break down her really stark thesis about the power plays she sees setting the stage for 2025 and beyond. Let's get into it. Now, the figure at the center of all this is Donald Trump, but maybe not in the way you're thinking. According to this analyst, he's not the cause of these huge global shifts. He's more of a symptom, right? A really loud signal of a new, brutally direct style of politics that's just ripped the filter right off. So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at this new political style. Then, we'll see how it connects to America's changing role in the world. After that, we'll get into the specific playbook being used, see it in action, and finally, explore the analyst's pretty grim conclusion about where this could all be heading. All right, first up, the big idea here is that even though the way the game looks has totally changed, the game itself, yeah, that's still the same old struggle for power and control it's always been. The whole foundation of this analysis is this idea. For a long time, the world has been run by what she calls a corporatocracy, basically a corporate oligarchy. That's not the new part. What's new, she argues, is the speed. Everything is accelerating. The moves that concentrate wealth and power are happening faster and way more out in the open than ever before. And this really shows you the difference. The old style was this, quote, syrupy glaze of diplomatic talk that kind of hid what was really going on. Trump's style, as this analyst sees it, is to just scrape all that off. It's brutal, there's no filter, and he just says the quiet part out loud. The goals haven't changed, but the way they're presented, completely different. Okay, so that brings us to the why. Why this new aggressive style? Well, according to this analysis, it all comes down to America's struggle to stay on top. Here's the key. The unipolar moment is over. You know, that period after World War II, and especially in the 90s, where the US was pretty much the only superpower, well, those days are gone. With China, Russia, and other powers on the rise, America, as the analyst puts it, is no longer the only piper in the tavern. So what do you do when that happens? This analysis claims you weaponize your economy. We all hear about tariffs being used to bring jobs back home, but she argues that's just the cover story. Their real use is as a foreign policy weapon, a club to keep rivals and even allies in line to try and hang on to that top spot. But here's the kicker. This whole muscle flexing thing, it's kind of backfiring. Instead of isolating rivals, it's actually pushing them to work together more closely. And you see countries all over the world scrambling to build systems that don't rely on the US dollar, which only speeds up that move away from American financial dominance. So, this leads to a really interesting part of the thesis, the specific playbook the US is now trying to export around the world. Okay, first, let's get on the same page about a key term here. When this analysis uses the word neoliberalism, it means a specific economic model where the market is king. It's all about deregulation and making sure the system serves the people who own capital, not the ones earning wages. The analyst even calls it wild capitalism. And this is the crucial part. The playbook for the kind of leader America seems to favor now is this weird mix. On one hand, they talk a big game about national sovereignty and push conservative social values. But on the other hand, they put this wild capitalist economic system in place. And, a key point, they give unconditional support to the US and Israel. So how do you actually get other countries to adopt this playbook? Well, the analyst points to South America as a perfect example of a two-pronged strategy, the classic carrot and the stick. It's really that simple. You see it right here. If your leaders play ball, like in Argentina or Chile, you get the carrot, lots of financial aid and political support. But if you don't fall in line, like Venezuela, you get the stick, economic blockades, and the threat of military action. And we're not talking about small change here. The carrot can be huge. Look at this example. A whopping $20 billion in aid for Argentina. Now, the analyst claims this money only came through after Trump said it was dependent on President Malay's party winning an election. They won, and the money showed up. And then there's the stick. This quote, which the analyst says comes from Trump's Truth Social, is pretty blunt. She argues this reveals the real game in Venezuela. It's not about drugs or democracy. It's about getting control of the country's oil and putting a friendly government in charge. So where is all of this headed? This is where the analysis gets pretty dark, building to a final chilling conclusion that all these moves are basically getting the world ready for a much, much bigger conflict. She calls this crisis capitalism, and here's how the cycle supposedly works. Step 1, you create constant crises. Step 2, all those emergencies create a lot of fear. Step 3, you use that fear to consolidate power and wealth. And the final, crucial step, you shift the entire national economy to a permanent war footing. And if you're looking for proof, the analyst points to numbers like this. The U.S. defense budget is now over $900 billion. The argument is that a number that big isn't just about defense. It represents a fundamental shift in what our society's resources are being used for, away from other things and towards military readiness. And this isn't just happening in the US. The analyst also points to leaders in the UK who are constantly talking about the Russian threat. She argues that this kind of rhetoric has a very specific purpose: to get the public psychologically prepared to accept the sacrifices that will come with a future war. So, at the end of the day, what this analysis is really saying is this: nothing you see happening on the world stage is an accident. The chaos isn't random. It's all part of a calculated, global chess game being played for incredibly high stakes. And that leaves us with one last big question to chew on. If this analysis is right, and the world really is a chessboard, we have to ask ourselves, who are the players making the moves and who are the pawns?